Колеги, вітання. Український кризовий медіа-центр продовжує свою роботу. Тема
Continue our work. The topic is the civil partnership, happy future for Ukraine and everyone. The participants are Mykhailo Chaplyga, representative for the Ukrainian Parliament Commissioner on Human Rights, and I invite other participants to the stage. Good afternoon, colleagues. I have the honor to state about not my initiative, but to inform about the support by the Commission on Human Rights of the initiative that was born during the round table, where we had famous civil initiative groups, and we discussed the creation of non-formal association of the NGOs that unite their efforts for the sake of common tasks and objectives. And when this partnership came to the Parliamentary Commission on Human Rights, she provided her support, and we believe that we will be working all together to build the country where every citizen will feel happy, everyone will feel indignant. The main directions of our work are the educational and activities on protecting constitutional rights and the Constitution of Ukraine. Talking about the Constitution of Ukraine, this is very important topic today. And I can tell you that the Office of the Parliamentary Commission on Human Rights is very active here, talking about writing the real Constitution of Ukraine, which would become the main document for all the citizens. I would like to say that we need as soon as possible at the level of public initiatives to start a wide dialogue and discussion as to the new social agreement, the agreement which would be executed between all the citizens of Ukraine, the agreement on how we all together will live in one country, on what principles, what we will delegate, and what will be given to local level, how to build the country where every citizen is happy, because every person is born in order to receive dignant service from the state and also realize himself or herself. So the Office of the Commission is ready to help the initiative, and we're happy that this initiative found support not just from the public initiatives, but in among the law advocates. And now I would like to give the floor to the Sergiy Shchetinin, the head of the NGO Razom. We are together. Good afternoon. Thanks to the UCMC, we have the opportunity to continue very important discussion that we started on the 21st of July in the office of the Commissioner, and we were discussing things which are happening within the triangle: society, state, authorities. These relations are so obvious that no one's talking about them, but they do exist and they influence our life and what's happening in Ukraine. This is no secret that Ukraine today is in a difficult situation of a crisis of economic, political, and managerial functions. But we suggest to look at this problem from the point of view of who is to be blamed and what is to be done to take Ukraine out of this situation. And so we came to the conclusion that these are not authorities, as people say, that it's the authorities who are to be blamed that we have these problems. But we came to the conclusion that the society and people themselves are to be blamed. We have a big problem in the contemporary history of existence of Ukraine, that the state is not founded. The subject which, in accordance to the science of creating the state, has not taken has not defined the parameters of the state, but agreed that elite at that time in 1990s has taken this function. And actually Ukraine, having named itself, called itself independent, has blessed the organizational form of which was created by the Soviet Socialist Republic, and the consequences are still here. And in '96, when we approved the constitution, these problems moved to the new stage, and today they also influence our life, because the society doesn't want to understand what their rights are. They don't know what their duty is related to the right, and blames the intermediary, the one who personifies the authorities. And we decided to set up the partnership in order to free space in the mentality of a citizen, so that every citizen understands that he or she is the citizen, and the citizen has the right to define the constitutional system of the state. And we realized that from that topic, and the war is going on about that, because that is what the foreign aggressor wants to do, Russia. Why these armed people came here? They want to introduce the constitutional system which they call federal. And let's look at the life in Russia, and we will understand that this problem is what they have, and everything they have negative they want to give to us. So, to address this problem in all the spheres of life, we believe that Ukrainian people have to understand that they have this unique right. And by direct democracy, the constitutional system will be established. So basically, Ukrainian authorities itself twice in this period of time has changed the constitutional system. The Parliament and the Supreme Court of Ukraine recognized it. And that is the fact that exists, but the authorities do not recognize that there is an dispute between the state and the people, and no one can go to the court to force the parliament to change the situation, or at least to make steps to change it. And we are in the situation when the authorities do not recognize and people do not know about that problem. We are in the situation, and we believe that someone from the outside are imposing some algorithm on us, and that is why we have this format of the Minsk agreements. We have this position of the authorities related to giving response to aggressor, and we have many other problems which are related to that. So this partnership is to start wide-scale educational work in order to create a new elite which, not like today, they recognize the right, exclusive right to influence their future, and we want people to understand that only they can influence whether they will be happy in Ukraine, whether the state will be happy, and no one is responsible for that. That is the main task, objective, and the task of our partnership. The next speaker is the writer Oleg Chernoguzov, member of the presidium of the Ukrainian World Forum. In fact, I am one of the founders of the Ukrainian World Forum, and that year the government in exile headed by the President Plavlyuk arrived. There was a continuous period of time when, starting from 1918 till 91, in the UN, the government of Ukraine was there. Mykhailo Chaplyga, Mykhailo arrived in the Mariinsky Palace. They gave their powers to Leonid Kravchuk as a newly elected president of Ukraine. But they probably forgot what Sergiy has mentioned, that we then have not inherited, we did not repeat the 30th of June of 1941, when during occupation in Lviv, with the participation of Mykhailo Chaplyga, the act of renewed Ukraine was declared, and we passed the constitution of the Soviet Union, and that is how we lived till June 1996. And that gave the right to Leonid Kravchuk, being the next second president, to say in Prague that Ukraine has never had its own state. And then I was the secretary of the Union of Writers of Ukraine. I said, maybe you do not value the president, but for me this is dear as a symbol. And so at that time we had the union between Moscovia and Ukraine. And what does the Fourth Universal talk about? We ourselves were fighting for it, and today we ourselves can get our own Ukraine. When Kravchuk came to power, he introduced bilinguicity. I wrote 2 books, a book which was The Slaves Are Not Invited to the Ball. So I wrote that the end of that will be the annexation of Crimea. Then I compared the Anschluss of Austria and the Sudeti, when they were, so to say, defending German population, and the agents of Kremlin, the politologists Vladimir Kornilov, Rostislav Ishchenko, and others, they started talking about bilingual status. They first wanted to have a regional languages. I wrote an article then. After those processes at night, I said that this will end up as a tragedy, and that is what happened, because after that we had all these problems, even though the Russian Federation has never declared Tatar language as the second language. We also committed mistake. We made many mistakes. I believe that we do not have the state. We have a semi-finished product. We are post-colonial state. We are very tolerant, and that is our problem. Agreeing to being bilingual, in the end we received this situation when Yanukovych in the regions in Odessa and Kharkiv started speaking Russian language. And I wrote about that to Yanukovych, and Dmitro Pavlychka joined me in that. Today, when we are talking about the special status of Donbass, we're doomed. We are doomed to lose the statehoodness. After that, if we provide that status, then there will be Shulavska Republic, and that is dangerous. Myself, on the 4th of July, I wrote the letter to the president that we need to separate this occupied part and the population which switched to the side of Ukraine, those who were saying, Putin save us, let them stay there, because in accordance to the Charter, Geneva Charter, the occupant is responsible for occupied territories. We need to separate ourselves, to put the border and several lines of defense. And one more thing, what have we done? What was our biggest mistake when we put terrorists and the representatives of the fifth column headed by Putin to negotiate in Minsk? I believe we had to follow Budapest Memorandum and sit at a table exclusively with the US, Britain, Russia, and Ukraine, and plus France and China, and only at that level to negotiate, because when we left the club of the nuclear states and we were guaranteed the integrity of the state. Now, when we are talking, Berlin, at the request of Lavrov, is deciding on what will happen to our constitution, but our people should decide on what should be happening with our constitution, but not any other state. Today, the lawyer Golovati went there, and the former president of Ukraine, Roman Besmertny, and now they are deciding on what will happen to the constitution. But I believe we, our people, should be doing that. Ivan Halenko, member of the Public Council at the State Fiscal Service of Ukraine. Good afternoon. I am the candidate of Sciences and Technical Diagnostics. 90% of the mistakes we spend 10 seconds. During Maidan, I met one person when everyone was fighting against the authorities. This person was looking for where is the mistake in the system of the state of Ukraine. I mean Sergiy Shchetinin. I read the constitution only when there were debates in the Народный Ruch of Ukraine. So basically, I believe that the constitution is from God and only God can change it. Today, I'm sure that first of all, we found mistakes in our process. Now, what should be the methodology of correcting these mistakes? The law enforcement bloc was taken from Maidan to Ilovaisk and was killed there. Those people who knew in detail how the heads of the state are earning money, they are not there. And now people are getting united around the idea of how to remove this mistake. And now we are thinking about how to organize the partnership of people who are intellectual. And now I see all these people who are here at the stage. These are the center of the intellect of the nation. We need to find some way of how to get our authorities back to law. The authorities are business, and what is the objective of the business is to minimize the expenditures. For them, social expenditures are overheads, and they're trying to minimize them. They're trying to deprive them of some constitutional rights without my consent, without my permission. And their hands are in GMOs, in the fats, in the and they give us not just sweets to children, but they give us the future. They give it by hands which I do not trust. We have official economy, official shadow economy of 1,000 billion hryvnias, and that's the size of the corruption. And instead of addressing the problems of Donbass, they want to change constitution for us. Who are they? I am not a lawyer. I'm just a citizen of the country. As Chernovil once said, I'm Halenko from the street. I don't want people who dishonestly earn their million. I don't want them to decide on what should be the destiny of me, of my people, of my children. They have not deserved this right. They were lying a lot, they were stealing a lot, and they shouldn't change what is not allowed by the constitution. I believe that most of the citizens are to be obeying to the law, the authorities. The further we are from Maidan, the less they become legitimate, because they arrived in non-legitimate way, and now they have depleted all the credit of trust. We will get together at public TV and we will discuss the idea of how to mobilize the intellect of the nation. And they all have where to go. It's not like me. I have nowhere to go from here. They have foreign passports and airplanes. I don't want to live according to their rules. Thank you for attention. And Director of Kharkiv Human Rights Group, Evgeniy Zakharov. I believe that besides what has been mentioned by those who spoke before me, this new association has very pragmatic objective, and that is to have a real modern constitution in Ukraine, which will allow our people to have the rules according to which it will be easier to live and to implement the right to do whatever we need and want with our destiny. The constitution was approved by the parliament. It was declared the best in the world, but it's now very obsolete. Even then it was a compromise with the communists, and we had majority of them in the Verkhovna Rada, and the constitution had economic and cultural rights, where the state was promising social assistance and the right for housing and everything else, and we realized that it is all something like in Soviet Union, when things are promised but nothing will be done, and our state is bankrupt because all these social guarantees were not implemented. As to the dynamics of the development, it did not give such a chance, but the chance was given to rich people to become richer and poor people to become poorer. And I can tell to all the authorities of people that most people are poor and uneducated, and that is one of the reasons why we have very slow development as people. But nevertheless, Ukrainians have this natural desire to be free, and the people, we had 2 revolutions in our country, and the last revolution, those people who participated in it, they do not want to agree that someone should decide on their destiny. We have to decide on, we have to resolve the main issue. We need to create new constitution which will be approved by people. Because now the parliament has the right only to amend the constitution, but the parliament cannot pass the new constitution. The new constitution could be passed at the referendum only. It could be prepared only by a special body, which could be called Constitutional Assembly. This should be representatives of people who will develop the document that we will be happy with. We need to receive the system of rules which gives us the chance to develop and which will be able to satisfy the natural desire to be free. So the main objective of this association is like what I said. I believe that the system of rules according to which the socium is operating, the system of relations where the rule of law is the main one, is the necessary condition for the state to develop. If we don't have that, then we will have the same situation as we've had for 25 years. What we have. The norms of the Constitution as to amending it were violated twice, and today it's difficult to answer the question, what is the constitutional system in our country? The only way out, I believe, is to approve the new constitution, and I believe that Ukrainians can cope with that task. I believe that this should be the main direction for our work, and that is why our organization has become part of it. Thank you. Now let's move to questions. If you have any questions, please introduce yourselves. UCMC. So I had several questions. I will try to systematize them. First of all, you were saying that the right to change constitution is the right of people. Do I understand you correctly that you are against introducing amendments to the constitution? Or are you suggesting that this should be discussed by the authorities? And we've heard from Mr. Chernoguzov about the situation today, also about the change of the format of the negotiations. We would like to hear what could be the alternative way of coming out of this situation in Ukraine. And also my question to Mr. Chaplyga. Thank you for your questions. I will answer your first question as to whether we support or whether we are against the initiative of the authorities to introduce the amendments to the Constitution. As you have heard, Mr. Zakharov mentioned that in Ukraine, the constitutional system of Ukraine has been changed twice in Ukraine. The change of constitutional system could be done only by people. There could be no institution in that. If the constitutional system has been amended illegally, then those who are to blame have to be responsible for them. That is why we addressed the authorities on the 30th of April. We addressed the presidents of Ukraine, and we have not received any answer to that. In this situation, when constitutional system is not defined, we cannot introduce amendments to the constitution. We need to give people the right to implement, to execute their rights, and then only suggest some changes. How will authorities act? We do not know. Where the president, where the Verkhovna Rada is, are they on holidays? We do not know. There is the approval of the highest constitutional court, but the citizen of Ukraine is not the subject of appeal, but there is a lot of intellectual work going on. The Commission addressed all the leading institutions, analytical think tanks of Ukraine, and to provide their opinion on the change of constitutional system. That is so big, so difficult to address for the authorities that we do not know what we'll be doing in the future. But I believe that we started correctly. The new elite should formulate their proposal. Can you imagine? People in the street cannot define constitution. They need to get the proposal. All the proposals they were wrong. So first we need to create new elite which will develop constitutional grounds, and then we will formulate this proposal. 1 minute, no more. On the rights of people. I will just say that every president, everyone wanted to be polypolitic, and they all were writing their constitution. That is bad. That is my subjective opinion, based on the memorandum and convention that I mentioned. Leonid Kravchuk has confirmed what I wrote back in July, and I don't want to repeat it. I understand what you mean. No one is giving away the territories, but we need to build our state. Leaving the occupied territory to aggressor. As to Crimea, we have a big reserve, 5 million Crimean Tatars. And the Crimea should become part of Ukraine. And you were asking about what? How should the new, and now briefly, the opinion of the ombudsman. Our position is very simple. The East is the one integral part of Ukraine now. We believe that the issue of restoring control will be addressed. As to the citizens, our position is just like of any international organization. These are our citizens. It would be wrong to blame people that they are the product of the propaganda. Yes, the state can translate its own point of view, alternative point of view, to what was imposed for 27 years. We believe that they are citizens of Ukraine just as the rest of the population, those 1.5 million of IDPs who live on the territory which is under the control of the government. Our position differs drastically from the position of the government. We believe that the government perceives them, that they are the burden, and they believe that they are to be given something, but we believe that they are a certain driving force in the economy, and the international financial organizations are ready to invest some resources to develop them in case the state of Ukraine presents the strategy of their reintegration. That is the position of the office. As to the Constitution provides for introducing amendments to the Constitution. And the Parliament cannot submit the new Constitution. This could be done only on the basis of the referendum. But we cannot write a document, put it to referendum, and receive the answer yes or no. If we want to get a new document which would become a real new social agreement, it is to be born from the bottom. We need to go to people and ask, what is your understanding of how will you coexist? And only after that, after we hear what people tell us. Only after that it could be introduced into some text and then put it to referendum, because otherwise it will be a dead document. From the point of view of methodology, I would like to remind you, as to Crimea and Donetsk, I would like to remind you how the plague was fought before vaccination was discovered. So we basically are on will be before the same, in front of the same choice. Those who cross the border will survive. Others, we're sorry. Briefly, 20-30 seconds. I would like to mention two things. Your question about Minsk agreements, there was no answer. Unfortunately, this format has depleted itself. That is obvious, and we need to think, well, what should it be replaced with? We do everything what's needed. We withdraw our artillery. We do not shell. But at the same time, we have these shellings every day. People are killed. Another side is violating it. Mr. Medvedchuk is in charge of the exchange of the prisoners, and it's very difficult to agree to that psychologically. I believe this should be changed. As to the changes to the constitution. You asked whether we believe they should not be introduced. No, this is not so. I would compare that to such thing. The constitution is like a house. The foundation has cracked, and the house can collapse. The foundation is to be replaced. New building is to be constructed. But that doesn't mean in parallel, well, we can introduce amendments to this constitution in accordance to the procedures which are there, but this should be done via public hearings. In the situation when no one sees the amendments to the constitution till they are submitted to the parliament, and after that they are voting for them, that is abnormal. The authorities should understand it. Thank you, esteemed participants. All the best to you. Our next briefing is at 2:30.